Ararat, which is the legendary resting place of Noah's Ark, is very close by. So it makes a lot of sense that this could have been the landing site of the Ark, and then this city would have been built by Noah.
A discovery has been made at the site of Noah's Ark that defies all explanation. We're not talking about another piece of petrified wood. We are talking about something a revolutionary quantum AI just found buried deep within the site's geological and biological data.
They find remains of freshwater animals dating back to around 5 or 6,000 BC.
This evidence is so profound, so utterly impossible by the standards of the ancient world, that it has been described as godlike. It reveals a level of technology that shouldn't exist, a collection of life that breaks all natural laws, and a secret about human history that changes everything. The Ararat anomaly. It all began with one question. What if the Ark was never just a story, but a buried structure waiting to be rediscovered? All of the data, the satellite radar scans, the seismic imaging of what lies beneath the surface, the soil composition, was fed into a revolutionary quantum AI. You see, this is the same kind of technology used to model the behavior of subatomic particles and map invisible gravitational fields. It's designed to see patterns that are invisible to human eyes, and when it looked at the Darupanar site, it didn't just see a pile of rocks, it saw a ghost. The AI began to render a probabilistic three-dimensional structure, a phantom image of what used to be there. It wasn't a random geological formation. What emerged on the screen was a hull-like shape with distinct internal chambers. These compartments lined up with terrifying precision to where ancient texts describe the animal pens and storage decks of the Ark. The AI was digitally seeing through 5,000 years of sediment and decay. It was mapping the subtle differences in density left behind by wooden beams that had long since turned to dust. It was detecting hollow spaces where cargo and life once sat. It was as if the Ark itself was phasing back into existence, not as a physical object, but as a data-based reality. But not all things are what they seem, because the AI kept processing. It was looking at something even deeper. The AI began analyzing the trace elements in the soil, the microscopic organic fragments, and fossilized remains so tiny you'd need an electron microscope to spot them. Suddenly, it flagged what it called impossible biodiversity signatures. It wasn't just one or two animal species. It was dozens, all clustered together in the same geological layer, from the same time period, in the exact same location. To put it mildly, this is not how nature works. Animals from different continents, different climates, and different ecosystems don't just naturally gather together on a remote Turkish mountainside to perish in the same spot. Yet the quantum analysis showed precisely that unnatural pattern. It wasn't just a ship. The AI was flagging evidence hidden in the very soil that would change everything we thought we knew about the passengers on that vessel. The AI detected something that suggests this vessel carried life forms we have never seen before. Ghosts of the genome. Let's pause and really take in what was happening here. Imagine feeding dust, fossil fragments, and microscopic traces of ancient DNA into a quantum system, and it begins to reconstruct a lost ecosystem. The AI wasn't just finding traces of local wildlife or fish. It was flagging the genetic signatures of animals that should never have been in the same place at the same time. Think lions next to sheep, tropical birds next to Arctic foxes, and huge land mammals alongside marine creatures, all preserved as echoes in the same thin layer of sediment. Could this be the biological footprint of the Ark's cargo? The system wasn't just finding random animal traces, it was detecting organized patterns, almost as if someone had systematically arranged the animals in specific holding areas. The evidence was pointing toward a deliberate collection of life. But this collection wasn't limited to life, we know. The quantum AI, with its ability to identify genetic fragments smaller than a virus, was scanning the soil at a molecular level. And it found something that defies any natural explanation. It found genetic material from animals we can't identify. These were DNA sequences that don't match any known species, living or extinct. These were ghost genomes, fragments of life that suggest creatures existed on this planet that we have no record of. They were creatures that may have gone completely extinct during the very flood event that the Ark was built to survive. The AI wasn't just mapping what survived the ancient world. It was creating a partial list of what was lost forever. The very idea that the Ark might have carried cryptids or unknown species sounds like fiction, but the data signatures were undeniable. This wasn't just a rescue mission for known animals. It was a desperate attempt to preserve a complete biological library. This discovery is shocking, to say the least. The mountains of Turkey are thousands of miles from the habitats of creatures like penguins or kangaroos, yet their faint genetic markers were showing up in the analysis. How does an elephant's DNA end up next to a penguin's trace elements in a 5,000-year-old rock formation? The AI was painting a picture of a vessel that contained a complete snapshot of global biodiversity, including creatures we no longer have names for. It's as if the soil itself has a memory of what once rested upon it, and for the first time, we have the technology to read that memory. The AI was hinting that this event wasn't local, it was global. The next step was to see if this incredible story was recorded anywhere else. When the world drowned. This is where the quantum AI revealed something that will fundamentally change how you view ancient history. Researchers decided to feed humanity's oldest stories, the great flood myths from civilizations across the globe, into the very same system. They inputted the Epic of Gilgamesh from ancient Mesopotamia, the Hindu stories of a wise man named Manu, who survives a great deluge, and countless Native American flood legends from tribes that were supposedly never in contact with one another. The AI wasn't reading the stories. It was analyzing them as data. It scanned for linguistic patterns, statistical overlaps, and common plot points that simply shouldn't exist between such isolated cultures. The results were staggering. What many people are crazy about is the idea that these weren't just similar stories of a big flood. The AI concluded with a high probability that they were all reporting on the same single global event. The system detected shared vocabulary roots for words describing the cataclysm. It found identical time markers and even matching descriptions of the vessel's dimensions and building materials, hidden in cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. The Hindu Manu builds a great boat to save his family. The Native American legends describe massive canoes that saved pairs of animals. Mesopotamian texts detail enormous vessels designed to ride out a world-ending flood. All of these stories, when analyzed together, pointed to the same approximate time period, the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. The thing is that this lines up perfectly with what geologists know. At the end of the Younger Dryas period, the ice sheets did melt, and sea levels rose by hundreds of feet, wiping entire coastlines and civilizations off the map. Suddenly, the story of Noah's Ark stops looking like a single culture's myth and starts looking like humanity's oldest and most important data point, a record of survival. But the AI found something else, something far more terrifying. The flood stories don't just describe water, they describe advanced knowledge. They contain sophisticated instructions for preserving life, for rebuilding civilization, and for navigating a world in chaos. The AI detected patterns suggesting these weren't primitive campfire stories. They were preservation protocols, almost like a set of instructions passed down from a far more advanced civilization that perished in the flood. The story wasn't just about survival. It was about a transfer of knowledge. And that advanced knowledge was also hidden in the Ark's very design. An engineer named Noah. The most godlike evidence of all wasn't the animals, the myths, or the mountain legends. It was the structure itself. Modern quantum sensors, known as gravimeters, have changed everything. These devices can now feel the invisible pull of gravity with such precision that they can literally detect empty space underground. To put it simply, if you dropped an object over a hollow chamber, it would fall ever so slightly differently than if it were over solid rock. Quantum gravimeters do this with individual atoms, dropped in a vacuum, timed by lasers, and atomic clocks with impossible precision. They don't look for fossils or metal, they look for gravity itself. When researchers fed the Darupanar site data into an AI simulation equipped with this technology, the results were beyond anything expected. It didn't just find random voids or geological fractures. It mapped the ghost of architecture, an outline that matched something intelligent, deliberate, and massive. The quantum data revealed 3 distinct levels within the rock formation: a lower deck, a middle deck, and an upper deck, exactly as described in the most ancient flood narratives. These weren't random caves. They were arranged, compartmentalized, and evenly spaced. When the AI cross-referenced the geometry with the biblical dimensions, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, the alignment was near perfect. Internal divisions appeared exactly where one might expect animal stalls, storage areas, or structural supports. But this is where the discovery turns from intriguing to deeply unsettling. The AI didn't stop at mapping shapes. It analyzed the entire internal structure, calculating the spacing of support beams, the strength distribution, and even the hydrodynamic efficiency of the hull-like shape. Its conclusion was shocking. This formation wasn't random, and it wasn't simple. It followed engineering ratios and maritime design principles that human builders shouldn't have known for another 4,000 years. The AI's analysis suggested weight distribution optimized for extreme buoyancy, curved bracing to absorb wave energy, and a hull form that mirrored modern shipbuilding techniques. It would have been an incredibly stable vessel, designed, whether intentionally or not, to survive an oceanic cataclysm. This raises a terrifying question. How could prehistoric people, armed only with primitive tools, possess such advanced engineering insight? Who or what gave them this knowledge? The structure appears to have been designed using mathematical ratios similar to those found in modern naval architecture, as if the builders had access to a universal blueprint for surviving chaos itself. This wasn't the handiwork of a simple carpenter. It was the work of a master engineer, someone who understood hydrodynamics, geometry, and stress distribution on a near-divine level. That's where the wild theories begin. Some researchers believe we're looking at the fingerprints of a lost civilization, an advanced culture wiped out in the ancient flood that countless traditions speak of. If that's true, the Ark might not have been the first great ship, but the last, a lifeboat of survivors from a world long forgotten. Others push the theory further, suggesting that this knowledge may have been gifted, or re-gifted, by something non-human. Ancient Sumerian texts describe sky beings, the Anunnaki, who descended to teach humankind the arts of building, agriculture, and astronomy. Could it be that the Ark wasn't just divinely inspired, but technologically assisted? The quantum AI detected something else unusual: metallic residues embedded in the surrounding rock, aligned in thin, parallel lines that would make sense as ancient fasteners or braces. Yet their mineral composition didn't match the local geology. Some speculate these could be remnants of an ancient metal alloy, something that hasn't corroded completely over time. If true, this suggests that the wood mentioned in texts might have been treated, reinforced, or even combined with materials unknown to modern archaeology. Even stranger, the alignment of the structure itself seems too deliberate. It sits on a slope, angled almost perfectly to the magnetic north of its era. Coincidence, or a calculated choice? Some engineers argue that such positioning could have stabilized a vessel during a turbulent deluge, minimizing roll and drift. Others say it's symbolic, linking to celestial navigation principles, or even Earth's magnetic ley lines, energy routes that ancient builders supposedly understood long before compasses existed. But perhaps the most unsettling possibility comes from what the AI simulation predicted next. When it modeled the flood conditions described in myth, massive global-scale water displacement, it found that the structure, if hollow and sealed as the data suggests, would have floated almost perfectly, maintaining a level position even in violent waves. The AI called it hydrodynamically improbable for a natural formation. In other words, this shape wanted to float. So what are we really looking at? If the Ark was real, and if this formation is indeed what remains of it, then humanity may have to rewrite everything we think we know about ancient history. Either a civilization with advanced scientific knowledge once walked the Earth long before recorded history, or the builders received plans from something far beyond human comprehension. Both options are equally disturbing. This technology could rewrite everything we know. If the Ark was real, was it a divine act or proof of a lost civilization? Let us know below. Like and subscribe for more secrets from the past.